This week we're talking about monitoring and pest suppression. So we go back to identifying the pests, whether they're key or secondary. On the left we have Asian spongy moth, which actually used to be called Asian gypsy moth. They recently changed the name. And so I would call that a key pest. It can be really quite the problem. A dandelion is usually a sign that you're not maintaining the lawn properly. So often there's about 30,000 traps on trees and shrubs throughout Washington state. WSDA crews check the traps for spongy moths every few weeks during the flight season. That's June to September. Now, the latest maps they're showing on their website are from 2020. This was back in 2019 is where they found the Hokkaido spongy moths, which are native to Asia. They came into Snohomish County in 2019, as I said. And they feed on over 500 species of trees, including many conifers, and the trees that they defoliate often die. So they had these maps for application, and they were spraying BT in low-flying airplanes. So while you can see the Asian spongy moth is quite a bit larger than the European, they still do DNA testing to be sure that they have an Asian or a European spongy moth. This is a big difference. And here's the difference. So with the European spongy moth, which is really prevalent on the East Coast, the female can't fly, feeds primarily on deciduous trees. It's still a serious problem, but the Asian spongy moth, the female can fly up to 20 miles. The infestation spreads much faster. They eat both evergreen and deciduous trees, and conifers can be killed in just 1 year of defoliation. So they really can't mess around with this. So as I said, they did aerial applications of Bacillus thuringiensis kerstaki. This is a naturally occurring soil bacteria that's approved as an insecticide in organic agriculture. So when you're monitoring for weeds, this is another monitoring situation, and if you do take care of lawns for a living, this is going to drive your client crazy right here. But if you really wanted to sample to see how bad it really is, you would do a unit of 3 by 3. And depending on the size of the lawn area, that you would take 20 samples. They would be evenly spaced, 3 by 3. The numbers, and then you would monitor for these in the early spring. And the earlier the better. In case of dandelions, they have contractile roots which enable them to pull themselves deeper into the soil as the season progresses. So they're much easier to pull early. And here's some of the weeds you might see in turf grass in the Pacific Northwest. Annual bluegrass, buttercup, chickweed, clover, crabgrass. I think my lawn has all of these. White clover, moss, plantain, thistles, and red sorrel. Most of them are perennial, but chickweed is a winter annual, so monitoring for that would be in the fall. So you're looking at your 20 transects. In this example, there are 10 sites with 40% weeds. The other 10 are 10%. So in calculations, it turns out there are only 25% weeds. The research has shown that lawns with 20% weeds are not seen as weedy from the road. So it's not as insurmountable as it might seem. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, dandelions are usually a sign that you have poor turf conditions. So healthy turf can outcompete weeds. You reseed, you check soil pH, make sure you don't over-fertilize when annual weeds are germinating. Mow higher, mow often, leave the clippings on. That can provide 25% of your fertilizer needs. And fertilization should be once per year, and that would be with a slow release fertilizer. And here's just some of the grasses you might see in our area. This is broken out by warm season and cool season. we're region 5, so usually it's a mix of Kentucky bluegrass, perennial rye, some bent grass, and fescue. Fescue should only be mowed to 2.5 inches tall. It causes a great deal of problems when you mow them too short. And finally, for lawns to outcompete weeds, they must receive 1 inch per week of water. This is a simple test that can help determine how long it takes for 1 inch to be applied to lawns. I used to work on a garden hotline, and we would always get calls in the fall because people don't water their lawns in the summer, but the weeds are very happy. So, as I said, if you want to keep them away, you want to water your lawn in the summer.